Raiders got a huge win against the Baltimore Ravens this past week, and Brock Bowers is a massive reason why. First-year tight end from Georgia, 9 catches on 9 targets for 98 yards. A lot of synergy going on there. Already a 32.1 threat percentage. They are emphasizing this dude in the passing game. And what I was so impressed with Brock Bowers is basically just who he was at Georgia. I guess, I shouldn't be shocked by this, but who he was at Georgia, it's the same thing that we're seeing in the NFL there. That number, 100% of his catchable passes have been caught. He is so tough over the middle. He is so tough with contested catches. You see there, 100% contested catch rate as well. This dude, it is just what the doctor ordered for a quarterback like Minshew, who probably... Bowers is often going to be like a first read. He could be a first read for a play, but I think he's even more valuable to this offense when Bowers is actually like a second and third read that Minshew can get to, because it allows them to hike the ball, probably most likely look Devontae Adams' way, or maybe it's a different kind of a play where, hey, they're emphasizing a different one of their receivers. And then if that happens to be covered too much, he doesn't want to take the throw, he can often look to where Brock Bowers is, because, okay, the coverage might be close to him, and I might be having to make like a split-second decision throw, but if I'm throwing it his way, very clearly this is somebody who can come down with the football more often than not. Just super strong hands from him. They're using him all over the field already, and for a team that I understand had other needs that they could have gone to with other players in the draft, Bowers is truly going to be an offensive chess piece for them, and I think they don't win that game without him. And it's crazy to say that about a rookie tight end already in week 2 of his NFL career, but you got to believe that, not just from the production, but also just because of what he means to this offense already. So Bowers has just been such a treat already to watch.
Trevor, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Raiders have really struggled to draft well in recent years. Have you heard that before? That come across your desk?
It's been tough sledding, as they say, over the last half decade. Yes, it has been.
Might be the understatement of the century, but yes, it has been. This team has been beyond atrocious at drafting. Like, whatever you think is bad, just by 10. I mean, factor it by 10, literally.
Yeah, so,
very important draft, right? You go into what I think was a really good draft after probably 2 drafts that I would say, at impact players positions, like, it was a little bit lean. And you've got a chance. Okay, this is it. We're starting. We got a new coach. Like, we are starting a new regime in a lot of ways. We got a new GM. This is going to be critical for us to get this right? And they take a player who didn't work out really during the pre-draft. I mean, he may have done a workout for teams, right? But I don't think he ran, did he? Didn't run. Smaller tight end.
Right.
After they took a tight end, like with one of the first picks in the second round the year before, and there were some questions like, is it going to translate? Like, he was used at Georgia in a pretty odd way, and we'll talk about some of how they're trying to replicate some of that. But it was a really risky pick, and I think people touched on this, but like, this was one of the craziest picks of the first round. What's the hit rate on first-round tight ends? Like, astronomically bad, right?
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It is normally not good at all.
And even if they're good, they're like, what, TJ Hawkins? Like, he's nice, like, but he didn't change the franchise. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
The way the Raiders are going in this draft with some of the talent that was on the board, they took Brock Bowers at 13 in a way that I would think they feel like he can be a franchise-altering type of tight end.
Yeah,
that is
right.
So rare, and there are so few of those players that this pick probably deserves more scrutiny than we'll ever be able to get it throughout the next couple seasons. And Bowers, not necessarily his fault, will be under that type of scrutiny. I think rightfully so, at least the pick will be, because of that. So that context kind of in place, how Bowers performs each week is massive. We talked about this with Keon Coleman some too, that because of all the other wide receivers that were drafted around him and how great the need is for the Bills and the window that they're in and needing an impact player, how he performs is going to be bigger than some of these other guys earlier on in the first couple of years. Mm-hmm. Maybe not his fault, maybe not Bowers' fault, but because of the full context of the pick, I think it matters a ton. And so with Bowers, what do you want to see? Like, the types of things that you want to see from him as a player in this game. I think you saw a lot of those things, right? Athletically, looks totally fine. That's a relief, right? Because he didn't run. And so there was some, I think, understandable, like, okay, well, yeah, but he was also used like in a lot of space in Georgia. And so sometimes it can be hard to tell when a guy's not running vertical all the time, like how fast are they really? The Raiders are really trying to get him going with like the bubble screen and quick game targets in the flats, sort of like Georgia did. It's not really working at all for a bunch of reasons. So that was the downside of this part of the game. Not Bauer's fault, really.
Right.
But the blocking out there hasn't been good.
Yeah.
I think the looks they ran against, the surface they ran against, were not great. So that part hasn't showed up. I think we could maybe come back to a little bit of is he going to be as good after the catch as he was at Georgia? I think fair question. Not many tight ends are in the NFL, but down the field, he's been awesome. His hands, body control, where the route should break, where space is, his ability to make contested catches is huge. That wasn't, I mean, you saw it at Georgia more so, I think not as last year, but the year before, but it was still something that was like, okay, this guy's getting like easy manufactured targets all the time. And so how he catches the ball in combat situations, especially for a smaller tight end, is so important. Would he have 3 of them in this game? I think he was 3 for 3.
Yeah, I think he was 3 for 3 in this game, yeah.
And some of those were like over the middle. Again, ball thrown through a keel. He's all hands catching the ball while going to the ground. Some really impressive stuff. So he isn't a quick, like hard cutter as a route runner. I don't know if you noticed that. He really rounds into his cuts, but he doesn't lose any speed when he does it. And he's faster than most tight ends, I think. So he is still creating really good separation. I don't know whether certain matchups that will catch up with him, but I love that he saw tight end stoppers. I mean, he separated against Marlon Humphrey and made catches in this game. Zone coverage, he knew where he was working to. He made plays down the field, improvise, kind of scramble drill, break it off, come back to the quarterback, go up and get the ball down the field near the goal line. I don't know if he's going to be crazy elusive after the catch like he was in college in some ways, but he is physical and tough. And so that's a great start. No missed tackles forced, I don't think, yet. I think that could be coming. I don't know whether they're going to be able to lean on him as like a post-catch creator the way Georgia was, and it seems like they're sort of trying to with some of their usage of him. But I do think he has so much of the other stuff that may not matter as much as we probably thought it would have mattered pre-draft. So a fascinating pick, a fascinating player to watch try to translate to the NFL, and some of the early returns being as good as they are, I mean, have to be a sigh of relief for the Raiders. Even if he ends up being really good, we could look back at this pick and be like, wow, they missed out on like guys that could have been more impactful for the franchise. I don't want to belabor that, though, in the analysis of Bowers himself, who has been really good through 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I think that's obviously really good context, because that's what the draft is about. Like, it's not just about nailing players, it's about nailing the players who can help your franchise in the biggest ways. And so that is really important. That's how draft value kind of comes into account. We talk about like value for positions all the time, the types of players that you draft in the top 20 because there's just more scarcity of them. They can do more for your franchise. You're drafting Bowers in the top 15, like you really believe that he could be a franchise changer for you, as you mentioned. And so this is a really good start for him. It's hard to imagine that he could have been more than what we have already seen from him. So far, so good, I think, for Bowers. But what does the peak actually do for the totality of the offense and the team? I think that we will continue to see that, hopefully, as the team drafts better, continues to get more players there and better players around him. So we will see. There's no doubt about it, though. He won't have the open space that he had at Georgia. So he was going to have to be that contested catch guy. I wasn't worried about that, but is that dynamic enough to justify that pick versus other ones? We'll see. But it's hard to, like you said, it's hard to criticize Bowers' part in all of this at all whatsoever, because you can't really ask for a better start for what he's given you with the Raiders, especially taking down the Baltimore Ravens in a big time win this past weekend.